A deadbolt is designed to be the final barrier between your home and the street. But that barrier effectively vanishes when the person on the other side of the door is already carrying a key to the building. We often operate under the assumption that our physical spaces and digital profiles are naturally isolated from the outside world. This creates a sense of security based on the walls we build and the passwords we set. This sense of security relies on the expectation that others will respect these boundaries. However, these cases demonstrate how easily those same barriers can be treated as a map of vulnerabilities to be tested and eventually bypassed. We are analyzing 3 documented stalking cases where a standard safety measure failed. In each instance, the victim was targeted in a place they believed was entirely private. These encounters reveal that a threat doesn't always come from the shadows. Often, it emerges from within the daily routines we assume are protected. It started with a routine visit to a bagel shop. A 21-year-old woman accidentally dropped her spare change on the floor, and an employee rushed out from behind the counter to help her. They had a brief conversation about a rugby injury he had sustained, and she left. By that afternoon, the employee had located her Instagram account, despite her never giving him her name. When she blocked him, he created multiple new accounts to continue sending messages, eventually finding her profiles on Snapchat and TikTok as well. He was able to track her movements through a single digital interaction. She reposted a theater cast announcement to her story, which allowed the stalker to identify her exact physical location at a local theater. The digital pursuit became a physical reality that night. As she walked to her car after rehearsal, she looked at the driver's side window. There were 2 distinct human handprints smeared onto the glass. The stalker later entered the theater box office and told the staff he was her boyfriend to find out where she would be exiting the building. He even purchased tickets for every remaining performance and left a note for her at the desk, mentioning that he had been watching her at her workplace. In this case, the digital boundary failed to provide any distance. A public profile provided a direct path for a stranger to transition from a phone screen to a stage door. At 2 a.m. on a street in Northern Ireland, a woman was driving home when she saw a figure standing outside a pharmacy. The man was dressed in black, and as her headlights hit him, he used his gloved hands to hide his face while watching her car pass. Feeling exposed, she reacted by speeding up and pulling into her driveway, which was located directly across from the pharmacy. In that moment of panic, she had shown the man exactly which house belonged to her. She went inside, locked her doors, and eventually went to sleep in her front bedroom. She had left the window slightly open, assuming the locked front door was enough to keep the threat on the street. At 3:30 a.m., she woke up to a faint, rhythmic sound. It was someone humming. The noise was coming from just outside her open bedroom window. She approached the window and moved the blinds. The man was standing on the other side. He held his fingers spread across his face, revealing a single eye staring at her. The distance between the pharmacy and her front door was only a few yards. By reacting to the threat and heading straight home, she had bridged that gap for him. A 19-year-old server moved into her first apartment, a second-floor unit that she viewed as her private sanctuary. For the first few months, the locked door was the only defense she felt she needed. Eventually, she began noticing changes inside the apartment. She found muddy footprints on her carpet that didn't belong to her, an open jug of water in the kitchen, and her thermostat set to its highest temperature while she was away at work. When she shared these details with a friend, he suggested she was simply being forgetful. Without physical evidence of a break-in, she began to wonder if she was imagining the intrusions. To test her theory, she placed a piece of clear tape across the bottom of her doorframe before leaving. When she returned, the tape was gone, and the door was slightly ajar. A few months later, she arrived home to find her gaming console and other electronics missing from her TV stand. For the first time, she had the evidence required to file a formal police report. Years later, she discovered the identity of the person entering her home. It was a maintenance worker for the complex. He lived in the unit directly across the hall from hers, less than 50 feet away. His position allowed him to watch her front door. He knew exactly when she left, using a master key to enter the moment she was out of sight. The physical walls meant to provide security were bypassed by the very person who held the keys to the building. These 3 cases involve different environments, but they all share a common element: a predator who integrated themselves into the victim's normal routine. In each situation, the victims felt a sense of unease long before they had physical proof of a threat. Their intuition recognized that something was wrong with their environment before they could logically explain why. It is common to dismiss fear when it contradicts the logic of a locked door or a private account. However, these stories suggest that the physical and digital boundaries we rely on are not always as secure as they appear. When your surroundings feel compromised, trust that instinct. A deadbolt only works if you are the only one with the key.